afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Chaise Chat on the Sisterhood Cookout channel. We are so excited this week. We are kind of jumping back into the topic of relationships, which is always fun. We have a new perspective, so we're so happy to have our guest speaker on, Mr. Henry Castillo. Of course, my name is Alicia Johnson, and we have...
Right, hey.
So thank you so much, Henry, for joining us this week. We are so happy to have you with us. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And ladies and gentlemen, we're excited to have Henry because he actually is the author of a book that is speaking about relationships. So we're super excited. I'm going to give you guys the title of the book right now.
The Challenges of Breakups.
Yes, yes, yes. So we have the Challenges of Breakups. Perfect. Yeah, hold it up longer, and so they can see it. Hold it up.
I think Henry's reads properly. Mine is backwards. There you go.
No, yours is good.
Okay, good.
Awesome. So Henry, your book is available on Amazon, correct?
Yes, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iBook.
Wonderful, wonderful. So tell me, what inspired you to write this book? How did it all begin for you?
So the way it began was in 2018, I actually had a very difficult year for me.
Mm-hmm.
I went through a divorce, and then I also had back surgery. So you could tell it was
Oh my.
a tough year. One day I go visit my grandmother, and she says to me, like, why don't you write a book? And I don't have any experience in writing a book. I was like, Grandma, how do I write a book? And she's like, I don't know, just write. And because I was going through a divorce at the time, I was like, why don't I just write about relationship and its difficulties? Because, we all gone through a difficult breakups.
Yeah.
Am I right? Have you ladies ever gone through
Absolutely.
Exactly. So I was like, this is something I think, the world can relate. Doesn't matter what culture, what level of background you come from. We've all gone through a difficult breakup. And because of my grandma, that's where the idea came into place.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
So yes.
Now, in reading the book, Henry, I found it very interesting because it's based on 7 different people, male and female, which I loved because it's giving a perspective that this is not a one-sided issue. This is, everyone can go through it. And I'm not going to give away too much of the actual stories, but the backgrounds of each of the characters are very diverse.
Yes, and that was the purpose of the book, because most people, when they write a book, they write about their stories. So I was like, I'm not really that famous, so it's not gonna really. I feel like
Not yet.
I'm not famous at all, let's say. So why don't I write different stories, and then people can relate to that? From the male's point of view, female's point of view, different generations, so people can see how relationships were like from back then generation.
Mm-hmm.
And also likes in different genders. We live in 2020. There's so many different stories out there, so people can relate to, and that's the way I analyzed it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point you bring up. I think sometimes we are so deep into our own relationship that we realize or fail to realize the dynamics that there are in modern day relationships, because it's not just your traditional relationships anymore. There are so many different types of relationships on the spectrum. So to really see that and say, you know what, I want to make sure that I include that and, be as inclusive as possible, I think that's awesome.
Absolutely, yes. And
Another thing,
the way I saw it, yes.
Wonderful.
Another thing that I loved about the book is that at the end of each chapter, there was a little message. I'm not going to say what the message is. You got to buy the book. We're going to put the link in the description. So I love that because everyone had their own takeaway from each experience, and they put a little word in there about their takeaway, which was awesome. And you mentioned that you were going through a divorce or had a divorce at the time of writing this book, and with your health issue as well. But what is your takeaway from these takeaways, and then your own takeaway from your experience?
My takeaway is, like, if anybody's going through a tough breakup or divorce, just surround yourself around positive people. Do things that you enjoyed. because when I wrote this book, it was actually like a healer for me, if that makes sense. So it really helped me listening to these stories, because, you know, when we go through tough times as humans, you know, as humans that we are, it doesn't matter whether it's a breakup or just difficult life obstacle. We always think, why me, 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 me? You know, we always think, oh, we have it worse. But in reality, you know, there's always somebody who has it worse than us. So when I listen to these stories, and especially, let's just say one of the stories, I was like, wow, that's their divorce or breakup was far worse than mine, and they overcame, you know, they overcame these life obstacles. So if they can do it, why can I do it?
Right.
And why can someone else do it? Does that make sense? So it really helped me out, and it also makes you feel like, let's just say it's not even worse. It's like you see it as, okay, well, they have also gone through this life obstacle. You're not the only one.
Yeah.
So now you're thinking totally different.
Right, right. Let me ask you, okay, because I know sometimes when it's hard to write about relationships or talk about relationships without spilling some tea.
Yes.
So did you ever like think, oh my gosh, if I start, you know, kind of writing about this stuff, maybe some of my friends will distance themselves from me because I don't want him spilling my tea or anything like that? Like, did that challenge any of your relationships?
You know, that's a good question. No, unfortunately, never did. Because when I was writing and I told people I was writing this book, everybody was saying it was a good idea. Because it's a healer. That's
Right.
the reason why I wrote this book. Because number one, it healed me. So I'm not just a person who's writing a book. It helped me, and then number two, I wanted to help people, and that's the main purpose of my book, to help people.
Yeah.
Where they are in. And naturally, that's how I am in real life. Like, I like helping out people. I give my shirt off my back for anybody.
Awesome. That is amazing. Self-healing through introspection. That's huge.
Yes.
Yeah. Henry, so in the book, you do have 7 stories in here, but it's kind of missing one important one. What story are we missing?
You're asking if mine's there. To be honest, no, mine is not there. Just because of rules and regulations with books, I couldn't put my story unless you would have needed that person's permission, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think it's fair. You know, I don't want to speak bad about nobody. I'm not that type of person.
Let me write it for you then.
Yes. You'll definitely be you'll be in my next one if I ever write a second one.
Oh, honey, I got some stuff for you, okay?
You know, it's funny you say that, because I get a lot of people ask me, well, why didn't you ask me?
Right.
Ask me?
Because you messy and I don't need those problems. That's what you tell them.
Yes.
So with that being said, you it seems as though not only was it a good therapy session for you in getting these stories and hearing about that you're not the only one in the world going through these type of issues, but it seems like your characters in this book, which you seem to rename them as well.
Yes.
Okay. They felt like it was good therapy for them to get it out.
It absolutely was. Absolutely. Because, you know, a lot of times as humans, we hold things in. And we sometimes, you know, we want to express it, but we don't have that opportunity to.
Right.
For them to express their story to me, they really enjoyed it. And I also respect that, for, you know, to give me that opportunity to listen to their stories.
So the challenge, and this is so funny, and I'm going to talk about mine as well, because I've only had one relationship my whole life, like once, that's it. And in that single relationship, shut up. There were flags, and there was things that told me that this is not the right one for you. Okay. And it was mainly I'm very much on, if I commit to something, I'm committing. That's not a good way or reason to be in a relationship, right? And I haven't been in another relationship since, because now that I've learned from the first one what not to do and look at the flags, because when people tell you who they are, you have to believe them, right?
Yeah, Maya Angelou told me.
And you don't try to change them from being who they are. So rather than go through all of that, I just never got into another relationship. And it's not because I didn't want to, it's because I guess unconsciously I was conscious of the flags. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Now I always tell this to people. We're not perfect, right? So
I am.
Yeah.
so it just, we have to learn from them, I guess. Nobody's perfect. And, you analyze the things, what would you accept from that person?
Right.
Right.
So that's the only thing you have to look at. Don't be scared. And yes, that's a good thing. Look at the red flags, but write down the things. Can I deal with this person? Would I be with them for the next 20 years with these style of effects? And if you say no, then they're not meant to be. And then if you say yes, then hey, give it a try.
Right.
Excellent.
Compromise without giving into things that are going to make you miserable in the long run. And pet peeves are something that they happen for a reason, like the little things turn into big things if you don't address them.
Yes.
And a lot of relationships don't address the actual issues.
Yeah, and I always tell people that, like, when you're starting to talk with somebody or beginning of a relationship, definitely talk about things, because you don't want to be so deep or too invested into the relationship that it's too late to change. And that happens. We sometimes compromise so much for that person that you forget about your own emotions. And then now you're so dived deep into the relationship that you can't change it, and that does happen.
Right. That's so true. So tell us, Henry, what's your current status?
This is my current status. I did not expect that question, to be honest.
The ladies want to know.
Yeah, well, I am seeing somebody.
Okay.
I'm taking it slow, to be honest. Not rushing, taking it slow. Because that's how you learn about somebody.
Right.
And I feel like sometimes we jump into people. I've seen friends, they'll get married in 2 months. And I'm like, wait a minute. You don't even know her favorite color. How is that?
Right.
Right. Yes.
Like, give it time. Take your time. There's nobody's rushing anything. And that's how you learn about each other. I've spoken to couples who've been married 30 years. And they tell me, and I always ask them, what's the secret? And they're like, just keep on learning on it, because we're still learning. You never really know a person.
Right.
And that's what actually keeps the love alive, just learning about one another.
Yeah. I'm learning that now, actually. I'm really learning that now, because I think sometimes when we've been through a traumatic relationship, we put a wall up in certain points that we don't even realize sometimes. We unconsciously do it. And so as that person's kind of slowly pulling those bricks down, you're kind of like, okay, am I letting it happen? So you start overthinking the process, and still trying to be guarded because you're not sure yet, or you just completely let the wall fall down and kind of rush into things. I think it's always a matter of finding that fine line, that balance of, okay, I'm going to be authentic with this person versus trying to be exactly what they want.
Exactly. And that's good you're looking at that way.
Yeah, definitely. So writing this book, has it changed how you approach your new relationships?
Absolutely, it has. Because again, I was the author, so I listened to more stories, and I also got to see the hands down of the story from what they told me. So I've learned what to look for in a relationship, what not to do. What do you want? Like Ann said, what don't you want? So it's definitely a new way that I learn and look at relationships.
So what is the biggest misconception out there about the male perspective in relationships?
The biggest misconception is that, I guess, guys stop trying. I think that's a big one that I hear females a lot. So after being, for a specific amount of time with your partner, I always hear guys stop trying. And I think guys get comfortable. That's what it is. And it doesn't mean that guys don't love their partner. Obviously, they still have so much love, but I think it's just they get comfortable and stop doing date nights, bringing you flowers. So my advice, if you're asking them numbers, or this message is to all males. you know, do dates, even if it's once a month. I mean, you guys are and exactly.
Too long and
yeah.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Let's go on number 2. We need follow-up.
I can't say. I can't say nothing yet. I'm one of those guys that, you know, I don't like to speak. I let my actions speak.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens. But you two ladies will be the first to know. I tell you that.
Woo-hoo. You heard it here. We got the exclusive. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Henry. We're so grateful for you taking the time out to, you know, share a little bit about your book, about your story. We look forward to the sequel, so we will definitely be keeping an eye out on that and have you back on the show. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you again for you having me, Alicia and Ann. You ladies are the best.
Thank you.
Awesome. Have a great day.
Everyone, we're going to have a link for the book on Amazon in the description. So just make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you can be always aware of what's new on the channel. Thank you so much, Henry. It was absolutely awesome having you on.
And before we go, Henry, you have social media pages that people can follow if they want?
Yes. So they can actually go to the Challenges of Breakups Facebook page.
Awesome.
On Facebook, or they can just follow me on just my name, Henry A. Castillo, and they can follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and they can see my posts of what do I write about and all that fun blogs about life.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, ladies.
All right, everyone.
All right,
thanks again for sharing your time with us. And Alicia?
Yes, ma'am. We will be back next week for another episode of Chaise Chat on the Sisterhood Cookout channel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Bye, everybody.
Love you guys.
Thank you.